Hello everybody and welcome back to Halloweird, where Halloween is everywhere, and in today's video I'm going to be looking at my personal pick for the animatronics with the highest possibility of returning for the Spirit Halloween 2025 season. Man, does it ever feel good to be back on the channel. If you know me and you know my channel, I usually take a couple months break right after Halloween. It's just what I do. It's almost like a little refresh period for me. Now, it's not only just to give me a little break from Halloween, but it's also just to get everything back up in order. Now, of course, I do have a life outside of this channel, and when I post to the regular amount that I do, usually in the season, which is almost every single day, it can definitely get tiring. So that being said, I don't want to keep you guys here for too long talking about this. Just wanted to say it feels fantastic being on the camera, and I will definitely be back for more. The break is over, guys, so I'm so happy about it. Without any further ado, let's move on to this list. Before we actually get onto the list, I want you guys to understand that this is my personal opinion. I don't actually know for sure, and I think it's pretty safe to assume that it's almost impossible for anybody to make a decision whether or not the Spirit Halloween animatronics are actually going to return this early in the year. So this is just based off of my experience with last year, seeing which animatronics sold the most, seeing which animatronics were hyped up the most, or which ones just had a really good feel to it that you can almost have a feeling that they're going to return the next year. And without any further ado, let's move on to the honorable mentions list. I do want to include those in here, so let's get on to the first one. The first of the two honorable mentions that I want to talk about is the 2024 Ringmaster animatronic. Now, don't get me wrong, this animatronic did fantastic last year, had a lot of hype. People really enjoyed the idea of his projection that came out of his chest. It was a really unique idea, and let alone how incredibly realistic the facial expressions were in the eyes and like the facial hair. We haven't seen that before, so it was really neat, really unique. But honestly, I just don't know if I could see something that large and that expensive coming back for another year. Typically when they bring back really expensive animatronics, it's usually something that's overly purchased. He wasn't necessarily overly purchased like Emmeline or Mr. Dark were back 2023 and 2021, but he definitely was sold enough and hyped up enough where I wanted to include him on my honorable mentions list. The second animatronic that I want to include in this honorable mentions list is the Nibbles the Clown animatronic. Again, another incredibly unique animatronic. The way that the motion tracking worked in its face was a complete game shifter for the Spirit Halloween franchise. We've never seen something like that before. The little sensor in his nose that tracked you when you walked was honestly brilliant. As you can assume, for a first time use in an animatronic, it didn't work very well, and there was a lot of faults and a lot of malfunctions. It didn't track after quite a couple activations, and by the end of the year, most of them in the store were not working properly. Now, whether or not this is an issue they can resolve in following years or just something they're going to bypass and not do again, it definitely didn't work to their best ability for the first ever use, which I can't be mad about. An animatronic with a new concept, it's not going to work the first time. So because of that, simply because of that, I think that he won't return for the 2025 season. Not because he was a bad animatronic and not because he wasn't hyped up enough, but only because this new concept that Spirit Halloween introduced didn't necessarily work to the fullest potential. Alright, now that we've got the honorable mentions out of the way, let's move on to the actual list. Within this list, there is 6 animatronics that I believe will make a return, and a couple of them being multiple animatronics. You'll see what I mean in a second here, just hear me out. The first animatronic is one of those multiple animatronics, and that is the group of the Jumping Spiders. That is a pretty safe bet that those animatronics will make their return for the 2025 season. The black and brown Jumping Spider had been out since 2011, and the black and red Jumping Spider has been out since 2020, and since their price has dropped, it's pretty safe to say that they'll make a return. The one that's important that I wanted to talk about is the brand new one from the 2024 season, and that being the gray Jumping Spider. Now, definitely like the others, I do think he will make a return and continue to make a return for the Spirit Halloween franchise, but I don't think he'll be on display as much as the black and the brown Jumping Spider will be. Similar to the black and red Jumping Spider, the gray Jumping Spider won't necessarily be on all of the displays, but I have a safe bet that he will be in stock on the floor available for people to purchase. The second group of animatronics that I wanted to talk about that will make a return for the 2025 season is the sitting scarecrows, that being the regular sitting scarecrow and the scary sitting scarecrow. The regular one came out in 2016 and the newer one came out in 2023, and they've both been returning every year since. Now of course the scary one has only been out for one extra year, but it's safe to say he will also be making a return this year and following years to come. Spirit Halloween, as they do with a lot of their continuous returning animatronics, has dropped both of their prices by a significant amount, making it highly likely that they will be making returns again. And finally, the last animatronic that is a pretty safe bet is the Cerberus animatronic from Spirit Halloween. Now this originally came out in 2015. There are some people that don't actually know that. It came out originally in 2015, returned in 2016, came back in 2019, and came back again in 2024. Now the fact that they brought it back within all of these spurts of time make no sense to me at all. It's the only animatronic they've done anything like this for. Not necessarily sure why, but I think it is safe to say that he will make a return for the 2025 season, because just like the sitting scarecrows and the jumping spiders, his price dropped significantly. Alright, and now that we got those ones out of the way, these are the three more important animatronics that were only 2024 exclusives. And without any further ado, let's move on to the first one. The first animatronic that I want to talk about on this list is the Ghostface animatronic. Now this animatronic came out last year as a new animatronic. There's been a couple Ghostface before. We've had one, I believe it was 2011. I really hope I'm right on that. Then we had one that was like the Hauntress remake in 2021, and then we had this one in 2024. But I'm talking about the actual animatronic, the one that I own in my collection, the one that a lot of people own in their collection. I just think that the way that Spirit Halloween had this animatronic created was so perfectly to a T to the movie, and a lot of the times when Spirit Halloween makes these licensed animatronics to that extent, people will be buying them a lot. And just like we've had with Pennywise and Sam, we've had these confirmed returns happening every year because people really enjoy licensed animatronics. They just love them. People love seeing a movie of a character walking into a Halloween store and seeing that exact same character to a life-sized one-to-one replica. That being said, I would be honestly a little bit surprised if they at least didn't return him for the online season. Not necessarily has to be in store, but I'd genuinely be shocked if he didn't return for at least the online season, because his sales, his hype, and his replication was so perfect and so amazing, and it just makes logical sense to me, at least, for him to make that return. The next animatronic that I wanted to talk about, or the second to last that I wanted to talk about on this list, is the 2024 Gravestone Ghoul. Now I know a lot of you might be thinking he wasn't that amazing, he wasn't that unique. Similar to a lot of other Tombstone animatronics, what is the hype? Why do you think he's going to return? Let me get into that. Spirit Halloween often does return these smaller animatronics because they're a little bit more quote-unquote family friendly. We've had that with Gordo, we've had that with Man's Possessed Friend. They're these animatronics that people don't always purchase a crazy amount of, but they're just family friendly to a degree. Spirit Halloween likes to lean towards more family friendly animatronics, and when they hit one out of the park, they like to return it. I do believe that the Gravestone Ghoul is a perfect example of that. It wasn't too scary, it didn't have a crazy scary movement, and it was small enough where kids don't have to look up at it and be scared. It's essentially the smaller animatronic that doesn't show too much fear. So in my opinion, I do think he will be making a return in store for the 2025 season. Just because of that, the Spirit Halloween also returned Gordo too, and it wasn't necessarily one that we thought was going to return, but hey, it happened. And just the way that Spirit Halloween rolls, I don't know why they do this kind of stuff, but they make these little returns that don't make 100% sense to the community. Gravestone Ghoul being one that I think would be falling on that list. And finally, the last animatronic that I wanted to talk about on this list, the 2024 Cotton Candy Dam. Now this animatronic was easily the most overhyped animatronic from the 2024 season. His sales were through the roof, his hype was through the roof, people really liked him. He was the most purchased animatronic of the 2024 season. He had this, I can't blame him. He had this really cool, unique animation where this head would pop out of this popcorn bucket, or cotton candy bucket, I guess. And it was awesome. It was really huge. His face, massive. The bucket was huge. It was a really large, overly scaled animatronic, and a lot of people like these tall animatronics. I believe he came out to be like 7 feet or something like that, 6 or 7 feet, but it was just the overall width and size of this animatronic that was really blowing people out of the park. Now, because of these sales, because of this hype, I would be shocked if he didn't make a return for the 2025 season. And that just about closes this video. I didn't want to make something too long that would be too hard for you guys to go through and listen to, and on top of that, I just wanted to make it simple enough where I could get my message across. I know I may have rambled on a little bit in this video, but I'm just excited to be talking to a camera again. I'm excited to be talking to you guys. I want you guys to know that when I take a break after Halloween, it's not permanent. It hasn't been. It won't be. I just take these breaks to get everything back in order, get myself back on track, get on with all the things in my actual life. So it just happens after Halloween. Don't ever take it personally. I always come back at like January, February around. That's what I did last year. So with that being said, I think I'm going to end the video here. And of course, like I always say, if you guys enjoyed the video, consider hitting that subscribe button. We're actually almost at 4,000 subscribers, which is crazy. I just saw the other day we hit like 3,900, and it's just blowing my mind. If you guys could get me there, that'd be amazing. But again, it's completely your choice. I'm never going to force you. So without any further ado, I will catch you guys in the next video.